Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have to make it clear first and foremost that I don't have $1,000 to give away. But I hope that brothers will remain behind. But your reward will be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remember when I was a very young boy, and I grew up in the UK. I spent my youth there, and I remember my mother sending me to the local masjid. And the local masjid was Gujarati masjid. Some of the brothers might relate. An Indian masjid, and the kalima or the halaqa that was given in Urdu, and I didn't know that language at all. But my mom made sure that I attended those halaqat, because when you sit in a halaqa, it is not just about understanding the message that is given. It is also understanding that there is a blessing, there is mercy that comes down. Even though you don't understand the language that is being conveyed, when you come to the khutbah, for example, and the khutbah is completely in English, or the khutbah is completely in Arabic, and you don't understand a single word that is being said, by you sitting there and following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, you are being rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a type of mercy that is very difficult to find elsewhere. So when you come to a halaqah, any halaqah, whether it is this one or any other halaqah, it should not be just in terms of what do I benefit in terms of knowledge, but just your presence, just you sitting here, you know that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends upon this type of gathering. So inshallah, I want to keep this halaqah very brief. The topic is revisiting the khutbah that we presented yesterday here at the masjid. For those of you that were here, you will know that it was about zakah and the importance of zakah in Islam. Now, many Muslims, they don't understand that zakah has many different types and forms. It is not just zakatul mal, and it is not just zakatul fitr. And even when you talk about zakatul mal, it is many different forms. The scholars in Islam, they say there's zakah in terms of the gold that you own. There's zakah in terms of the silver that you own. There is zakah in terms of the fruits that you grow on your land, usually back home. The animals that you own, there is zakah on that as well. There's many different types of zakah. And zakah is such an important topic in Islam that it is made a fundamental pillar in the religion, to such an extent that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he fought the people who denied zakah after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. There were people who said, we will remain Muslims, but we will stop paying zakah. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said, no. Whoever denies zakah, or whoever makes a division between zakah and salah, then I will fight that person, showing how important this topic of zakah is. And yet you will find today people who take this lightly, who try to find loopholes, who don't even understand the importance or the way to give zakah at all. When it comes to zakah, brothers and sisters, Zakah is a very intricate topic. It is a topic that has many rules and regulations. And the reason for that is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants this zakah to benefit a great number of people. First and foremost, when it comes to zakah, zakah is a pillar of the religion, and it is also a test for mankind. It is a test for mankind to show whether you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more, or if you love the money that you have in your pocket or in your bank. Many people, when it comes to money, they'll do anything for money. Whether it is halal or whether it is haram, it doesn't matter. Whether they go into riba or they don't go into riba. And zakah is a beautiful example where it shows where the person's love truly lies. If you pay your zakah in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do, then it shows your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. And this zakah, it brings along so many benefits. When you read the ayat of zakah in the Quran, there are 8 different categories that are mentioned in the Quran. People who are qualified to get this zakah. It is not just the poor people. This is a big misconception that people have until this day. That people, they think that the only people that are qualified for zakah are poor people. No, that is not true. If you read the Quran itself, it tells us that yes, the ones that are first and foremost when it comes to zakah are the poor people or people less fortunate. But it is also for other groups of people. People who are in debt, people who are new to Islam, people who are imprisoned, and so on. There are many different topics. Why is this important? Like we mentioned yesterday, we said that many people, they think that people in Canada, they don't require any zakah. Not at all. And they'll even argue with you. They'll tell you, are there any poor people in Canada? And yes, the poor people in Canada are not like the poor people elsewhere. But is zakah only for poor people? No. It's people who find themselves in a difficult situation. People who are in prison. People who are in debt. People who are new to Islam. People who are traveling. Ibn Sabil is mentioned in the Quran. People who are traveling, that they are qualified for this zakah. So this zakah, it goes beyond the concept of just giving to those who are in need. And even then, if you remember yesterday, we made an important distinguish between the people who are fuqara and the people who are masakin. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينِ. The fuqara are not like the masakin, and the masakin are not like the fuqara. The faqir is like the one who has nothing. Okay. More specifically, the scholars, they say it is the person who has less than half of what they need. Less than half of what they need in their daily life. That is the faqir. So if the person has less than half of what they need, then they are classified as a faqir. But the miskeen is more a'am in the sense that it is more comprehensive. It is the person who cannot make ends meet. The person who cannot make ends meet. In the sense that they have something, but it is not enough. They struggle on a daily basis. They don't have enough to feed themselves and their family on a daily basis. And if you think about it, the miskeen, how many people here in Canada don't live paycheck to paycheck? We all live paycheck to paycheck, right? We all try to make ends meet, and we all try to make rent due and so on, right? But it doesn't mean that just because you're struggling that you're automatically entitled to zakat, no. But it gives you an idea of how comprehensive this zakat system is. It's not just for the person who is elsewhere, the person who is far, far away. It is also for the people close by you. And when it comes to helping people, we mentioned in the khutbah that the Islamic principle is that you help people that are closest to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He speaks about this message of Islam, He tells the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, and warn those who are closest to you, your tribe, your people around you, your family. And this teaches us that when it comes to benefit, as a Muslim, you have to benefit people that are close to you. Your parents, your siblings. You benefit them first and foremost. And then you extend that bubble and you benefit people in your community, people in your society. So when it comes to zakah, we should not fall into this perception that we think that zakah should always be sent back home, that it should always be sent back to Pakistan, or it should always be sent back to Somalia. No. There are people here in the community, here in Canada, that are qualified for this zakah. And we need to, as Muslims, we need to do the most. If you implement this zakah the way that it is supposed to be implemented, one of the benefits is that people realize the benefit of Islam around you. They will see it. Non-Muslims, they will say, this is zakah. So you give something that you have to others around you, and you feed people. They will be shocked. This is one of the greatest da'wah that you can do. But if you only send it back home, then that will be lost. And like I said in the khutbah, and I'll say it again, I don't want people to misunderstand. I don't want people to leave and say the Imam told us not to give the zakah elsewhere, to give it to our families. No. Give it to your families. Give it to the people that you think deserve it the most. But don't forget the people that are around you. Find a balance. Try to strike a balance. The people that are around you in your community, you might not know them. Many people, they come up to me and they say, Imam, are they really people that are in need of zakah? I say, yes, they are. I know them. Just because you don't know them doesn't mean that they don't exist. And again, one of the beautiful things about the religion of Islam is that it is not a must that you give your zakat to an institution. In Islam, there is no such thing as a pope or a priest. There is no one to tell you what to do. The only thing that an imam can say is, this is my understanding of Islam. You research it yourself. You don't have to give your zakat to the imam or to the masjid. But you have to give it to the poor people. If you have the knowledge, if you have the understanding, then by all means give it to those who deserve it. But for most people, they don't understand the details of zakat. They don't know who to give it to, and they don't know the things that prevents a person from accepting the zakat. So to make it easy for themselves, they go to the masjid and they say, this is my zakat, please give it to someone that you know is qualified. And by that, they relieve themselves of that responsibility. Now that responsibility doesn't belong to them anymore. It lies with the masjid and the imam. It is their responsibility. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks them, they won't ask the individuals, they will ask the imam of the masjid. And they will say, what did you do with this zakah? So this is one of the reasons why people, they give the zakah to the masjid or to the institutions that they trust. Furthermore, when it comes to the zakah, we mentioned in the khutbah yesterday that zakah, it is also a concept. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks in the Quran and tells us وهو الذي أنشأ جنات معروشات وغير معروشات وهو الذي أنشأ جنات معروشات وغير معروشات والنخل والزرع مختلفا وهو الذي أنشأ جنات معروشات وغير معروشات والنخل والزرع مختلفا ألوانه والزيتون وهو الذي أنشأ جنات معروشات وغير معروشات وهو الذي أنشأ جنات معروشات وغير معروشات وجنات والنخل والزرع مختلفا والزيتون والرمان متشابها وغير متشابه. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the zakah itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. The fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the zakah, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا, and then He says, do not be wasteful when it comes to the zakah. This in itself, the scholars in Islam, they say it means that there's a connection between zakah and sustainability. There's a connection between zakah and sustainability. What is this connection? It shows us that zakah, it teaches us not to be wasteful. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to give to those that are in need, whether it is in terms of our money or whether it is in terms of the fruits that we have in our lands or our places that we grow, then it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us to give everything that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us everything to be in proportion. So zakah is one of those things that teaches us its sustainability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us to give everything that is in the ocean. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us to give everything that is in the land, but just a proportion, that we utilize what we need and we give what we can to those around us. And this is in comparison, like we mentioned in the khutbah yesterday, this is in comparison to what mankind usually do. What do they do? When mankind finds something, they come to a new place, they use it and they abuse it, right? We've seen it with our own eyes in our own lifetime. People come to a new place, they use up all the resources, everything. And then, just one generation after that, there's nothing left, right? But zakat teaches us to treasure those valuable things in life. That yes, there is something for you, there is something for others, but it does not mean that you go in excess. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love those who go in excess or those who are extravagant. So this zakah, people, they often think of zakah as a tax, or they think of zakah as a burden, or they think of zakah as something that loses them wealth, when in reality it is the opposite. The very word of zakah is something that increases. It means something that yanmu, something that increases. It increases you as a human being and it increases your wealth as well. When you give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you get something much more in return, both in this dunya and in the akhirah. So brothers and sisters, this concept of zakah is something that we need to study, we need to understand as Muslims, and we need to implement properly. If we all implemented it properly, then it would be one of the most impactful, the great means of da'wah for people. When people see that Muslims don't care about the money in their pocket, they'll share it with people around them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then people will flock around this religion. But when people try to run away from this and try to find loopholes and try to find excuses, or if they don't even understand it, many Muslims, how many Muslims every year, constantly, I get questions about zakah. People who don't understand this. And you've been Muslim for 30, 40 years, and still you don't know this important pillar of the religion of Islam. It is important for us as Muslims to study it and to understand it. And inshallah, the hope is that in the month of Ramadan, inshallah, that we will be able to go through this topic of zakah in detail as much as we can. The people who are qualified, the things that disqualify certain people. And my hope is that inshallah in the month of Ramadan that you will be able to join us for those halaqat. And inshallah with that we will conclude tonight's halaqah.